Hello friends, I'm Pramodini. This video is the second video of the Vijayanagara Empire, which mainly consists of the cultural contributions of Vijayanagara Empire. This chapter is chapter 1, part 2 of 7th standard social science, part 1 book. Okay, so before we go into the cultural contributions of Vijayanagara Empire, I would like to give a small recap of the previous video where we discussed the various kings who ruled the Vijayanagara Empire, how they founded the empire and then expanded it, and how it flourished and how it declined. Okay, so starting with Vijayanagara Empire was founded in 1336 AD in the southern bank of Tungabhadra River. The Vijayanagara Empire uh, was ruled from 1336 to 1646, and this was mainly possible by the four dynasties which are listed here: the Sangama dynasty, Sulava dynasty, Tulava dynasty, and Aravidu dynasty. So coming to the first one, that is Sangama dynasty, which was there from 1336 to 1485. So in this dynasty, there were rulers. The main ruler, that is Harihara, who led a strong foundation to this empire. He was the first king of this dynasty, and then after he died, his brother Bukkaraya took over the power. And then Bukkaraya's son Kampana also helped his father in expanding the empire. So after Kampana died, there were many other kings who ruled during this dynasty, that is Harihara II, Bukkaraya II, Virupaksha II, Devaraya I, Veera Vijayaraya, and Devaraya II. So the last king that I mentioned, that is Devaraya II, who is also known as Prouda Devaraya, is the famous king of Sangama dynasty, and his contribution, his period, is told to be very significant in Vijayanagara Empire. So after he took over the power, he built a new army, and he also captured many other important places, which expanded the empire. So after his death, his son Mallikarjuna and then Virupaksha III took over the throne. So during the time of Virupaksha III, because he was a weak ruler, a strong commander named Sulava Narsimha captured the capital and then started a new dynasty that is known as Sulava dynasty. This Sulava dynasty lasted from 1485 to 1505, wherein after taking over the power, Sulava Narsimha ruled for 6 years, and then he died. Because his children were minor, the kingdom was in the protection of a commander called Tulava Narsanayaka from 1491 to 1503. So this Tulava Narsanayaka wanted to be a ruler on his own. So he and his son started to rule the Tulava dynasty from 1505, giving rise to a new dynasty named as Tulava dynasty. After his son Veera Narasimha ruled the empire for quite some time, for around 4 years, and then he died. And after Veera Narasimha died, his brother Krishnadevaraya came into power. The era of Krishnadevaraya is one of the most significant of the Vijayanagara history, and he is considered to be one of the famous and the greatest kings among all the Vijayanagara kings. He expanded the Vijayanagara in all the four directions with all mighty, and he captured few places making it more bigger and bigger. To name few of his achievements, he won the Raichur fort, then Udaygiri fort, then he also captured Kalburgi, Bidar fort. Okay, but he died very soon. He died in 1529. So after the death of Krishnadev Raya, uh, Achyutaraya and Sadashivaraya ruled Vijayanagara. During the time of Sadashivaraya, because Sadashivaraya was a minor and unable to rule, Ramaraya, who is the son-in-law of Krishnadevaraya, took over the administration part. So during the administration period of Ramaraya, he captured Vijaypura and Golconda. And during his administration period, the Vijayanagara was very rich and it was flourishing, which invited many enmity against it. So one of the biggest enmity of Vijayanagara Empire then was Deccan Sultanates. They would attack many times on Vijayanagara Empire to gain power on it, but they couldn't win. So what did the Deccan Sultanates do? So they united all the kings and attacked at once. So this gave rise to a battle known as Rakkasa Tangadi battle, which took place on 23rd January 1565, wherein Ramaraya died. And because of his death, a new dynasty began, that is known as Arividu dynasty, which started ruling from 1570 to 1646. And Vijayanagara, many rulers such as Mysuru, Keladi, Chitradurga, Yelahanka, and Surapura became independent rulers, declining the mighty empire that is the Vijayanagara Empire. This is a small recap of the previous video. If you have any doubts on how the dynasties came and what were their achievements and all, you can go back to the video. Okay. So after we got to know that how many kings ruled and what were the dynasty and what were the achievements and all, we should know now the cultural contributions of Vijayanagara Empire. Okay, so this is what this video would be dealing with. It has many subtopics, six subtopics, that is administration, social status, economic status, literature, religious harmony, and last but not the least is art and sculpture. Okay, so we would be dealing on each of this topic in very detail, slowly one by one. Okay, so the coming to the first one, that is administration. Vijayanagara Empire had a very strong central administration, and it was adopted from this decentralized administration system. Okay, so what does this decentralized administration system mean? It's very simple. See, in this system, the kingdom is divided into many provinces. The provinces are also divided into many regions. Regions are divided into cities, and cities are divided into villages. So this system had many ministers who would assist the king, and there were many leaders of local provinces. Okay, so in this system, the king is the supreme judiciary or the supreme judgment giver. Okay, and there were many regional officers whose work was to give justice in the provinces. Okay, and the next point in administration comes is the income for the kingdom. So income for the kingdom was usually by land revenue, which would be 1/6 of the land revenue. then income and trade tax, profession tax, road tax, fair tax, export tax, and few tributes and cash would also be considered as the income for the kingdom. The army was divided into many divisions. Okay, so the prominent divisions of the army are infantry, cavalry, elephant, and cannon divisions. Okay, the Arabian horses in the Vijayanagara were very attractive, and this is also one of the major points in administration of Vijayanagara Empire. So coming to the next topic, that is social status. So in social status, I would like to point that during the Vijayanagara period, child marriage, sati system, and Devdasi system were in practice. Monogamy was in practice, but rich people and king would practice polygamy also. Then the various festivals which are celebrated grandly are Deepavali and Dashera. And Dashera festival was celebrated under king's patronage. Okay, coming to the next topic of this video, that is the economic status. So during the time of Vijayanagara Empire, golden coins were used which had the pictures of gods and goddesses etched on these coins. Okay, so in Vijayanagara Empire time, agriculture was the main occupation, and cloth weaving was the important industry of the empire. Okay, the important crops that were grown were rice, maize, sugarcane, and cotton. Kings of Vijayanagara, they encouraged agriculture by building tanks and wells in nearby to the agricultural field. Okay, they had a very good trade links with other countries. They had a very good export and import system. Okay, so let's see what all were imported and what all were exported. So the first one, that is export. So in export, they would export rice, cotton, cloths, iron, diamond, sugar, musk, sandal, spices. Okay, and they would import horses, silk cloths, and makmal cloths. Okay, Vijayanagara was the international business center for diamonds. I'm talking about that period. Okay, and this import and export would happen through three important ports. So the three important ports of Vijayanagara Empire are, the first one is Bhatkal, or you can also tell us at Bhatkala. The second one is Hunnavara, and the third one is Mangalore. Okay, through these ports, export and import would take place, and which would give as a revenue for the empire. I hope till now administration, social status, and economic status is clear. Okay, so if you have any doubts, you can go to the previous sections of it, understand, and then go further. Okay, so if you don't have any doubt, we'll move on to the next section, that is literature section. So during the time of Vijayanagara, literature of Sanskrit, Telugu, and Kannada developed immensely. Okay, so I would be mentioning few people and their contributions. Okay, so it'll be easier for all of us. So the first person who gave very important contribution to the literature field of Vijayanagara Empire is Vidyaranya. Vidyaranya is a preacher who preached Harihara and Bukkaraya. Okay, so he wrote books like Shankara Vijaya and Sarva Darshana Sangraha. Okay, his brother Sayanacharya also wrote books named Vedartha Prakasha and Ayurveda Sudhanidhi. Okay. Kings and their family members also contributed to the literature for literature of Vijayanagara Empire. So among them, Ganga Devi, who was Kampana's wife. So Kampana is Bukkaraya's son. So she wrote a book named Madhura Vijayam. Then Devaraya also wrote great drama called Sudhanidhi. Krishna Devaraya wrote many books, and to name few, Jambavati Kalyana, Madalasa Charitram, Rasa Manjiri, and a poem in Telugu language, Amkutam Malyada. Okay. Krishna Devaraya, he encouraged the Telugu literature, and hence he was also given a title as Andhra Bhoja. Okay. Then Kumaravyasa also wrote few books, to name few as Gadugina Bharata, Ratnakara Varnis, and Bharatesha Vaibhavam. Then Chamras also wrote a book named Prabhulingana Leela. Then Lakkhana, who was a commander of Devaraya, he also wrote a book named Shiva Tattva Chintamani, and a great poet named Bhima also wrote Basava Purana. Krishna Devaraya had few important famous scholars who would be called as Ashtadiggajs of Krishna Devaraya kingdom. Okay, so they are Allasani Pedanna, Tenali, Nandi Timmanna, Srinatha, Pingali Suranna, Tenali Ramakrishna, and others. Okay, so coming to the next one is religious harmony. The kings of Vijayanagara Empire were very religious harmony, which means that they would respect each and every culture in their empire. So it is described in Shravana Belagula inscription that during the time of Bukkaraya, he would solve problems between Jains and Vaishnavas. Okay, and Barbosa also visited Vijayanagara and stated that any Christian, Jews, Muslim, Hindu could live happily in the empire during the time of Krishna Devaraya, because these king would respect all the religions. Okay, so I would be talking about the last section of this video, that is art and sculpture. Art and sculpture of Vijayanagara was the evolutionary form of Dravidian style. Okay, this was stated by many great historians. To name one of them was Percy Brown, who observed all the temples and sculptures of Vijayanagara Empire. Okay, the temples of that period were built with strong granite rocks. Okay, this is Virupaksha temple, which was built during that time. So here I would be naming all the different temples, monuments, and sculptures which was built during that time. The second one is Krishna. Okay, uh, Hasara Ramaswamy temple. Then Vittala Swami temple, Krishna Swami temple, Kamala Mahal, Sringeri Vidya Shankara temple, Kalahasti. These were the important temples which were built during their rule. So these temples were very spacious and they had a very high tower. They had very wide marriage halls, meeting halls. These are the features of the temples built during Vijayanagara period. Okay. So Kalahasti, Srishaila, Tirupati, Chidambaram, Srirangam, and Kumbakolam, Kanchi, and other places. In these places that I named before, Vijayanagara art and sculptures can be found. Okay, so the important monuments during the time of Vijayanagara is this idol of Narasimha, the Ganpati idol, and the stone chariot. These are called as the monolith stone sculpture of Vijayanagara reign, which means that these was carved on only one stone. Okay, and then during that time, Dakshinadi music was introduced, and it was called as the Carnatic music, and it reached out even common people during that time, which means arts was very rich in Vijayanagara Empire. And to this field, Purandara Dasa and Kanakadasa contributed a lot and made it richer, which is also taken as the base or the foundation for this era also. Okay, so with this I would end the chapter Vijayanagara Empire. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can please note down those doubts and ask me when I can meet you. Okay, thank you. We will meet for the next class.